So let's first look a little bit at the market opportunity. So I think this is probably not surprising to those folks that work in the cannabis industry, but when we look at CBD products, the most common methods of consumption are via oil, drops, and tincture, with topicals being third, edibles being second. So basically, we're seeing non-smoked forms of consumption, most common with CBD, whereas with THC, of course, smoking flower is the most common method of consumption. So given that this is kind of the product form preference of CBD consumers, how does this shape which types of skincare products may have the lowest barrier to entry in the marketplace?
Well, I mean, Amanda, I think that obviously oils are a very easy way into the market via the CBD beauty category. And there exists already a few brands in prestige down to more mass or masstige level that are in oil format. Edibles are extremely accessible in terms of nostalgia, easy to consume. And actually amongst women, which are the highest percentage of new cannabis users, it's one of their first entryway form factors, right? But actually in terms of trends, we're seeing a lot of CBD going into masks and serums and other niche products in the market. So I think that, you know, in terms of formulating with this particular cannabinoid, there are a lot of different opportunities to put it into various form factors, depending on the category growth and trend. But at the end of the day, the opportunity is really showing the efficacy of whatever that form factor is for our consumers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can imagine that if people are really used to consuming their CBD via oil, drops, and tincture, that having a serum that had CBD in it would be, would be a pretty easy lift, right, for people to go from one to another versus something where people are very used to smoking flower. And now here comes a face oil with THC in it. It may be a little bit more of a reach for people that aren't used to consuming cannabis in that manner.
Yeah, and I think it's also like a chicken egg question, which is, you know, the ease of format in terms of formulation may also impact, right, the types of products that are going to the market.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And especially when we're talking, as you mentioned, about minor cannabinoids. So, you know, you talked a little bit about the process that you go through in order to extract these cannabinoids that are not abundant in the raw plant. So how does that impact the barrier to entry for people that maybe want to use CBG or CBC or some of these other cannabinoids that have to go through special processes to get enough of it in order to have a therapeutic effect?
Well, I think a couple of points here is one, I think there's a tremendous opportunity to offer a secondary benefit to existing products. So, for example, if you're used to a moisturizer and you understand a little bit about the formulation that works best for you, I think it's an opportunity to say, okay, we now have a moisturizer that maybe has some calming properties or resurfacing properties. So I think there's an interesting marketing angle to add an additional feature on existing products. In terms of what we're doing that's going to make it easier to formulate, we're able to produce minor cannabinoids in commercially relevant volumes. And they're easy to formulate in oils. They dissolve readily in oils. And so we've got a growing portfolio of ingredients that now people can start experimenting with and looking at, okay, maybe CBD plus a minor cannabinoid CBC might have better utility than just CBD on its own. And so it's opening up the potential to formulate, I would say, well, first of all, the availability of a wide range of compounds enables you to essentially feature maybe a unique hero ingredient for a particular application, where one cannabinoid may have a more profound effect than another.
That's really, really interesting. And I think it kind of speaks to this next point, which is that, you know, familiarity with CBD and even knowing what the minor cannabinoids are, or even have heard of them before, or have heard of them with utility, really is from the consumer population. And when we look at consumers versus non-consumers, and we had someone ask, how do we differentiate between consumers and non-consumers in this survey? We basically define consumers as people who have consumed cannabis and plan to consume cannabis again. And non-consumers are either people that did it once and it was like, nope, or they've never done it. So that's how we define that in this context. But unsurprisingly, cannabis consumers are more aware of CBD as a skincare ingredient. They're more likely to have tried CBD as a skincare ingredient. So thinking about marketing when it comes to cannabinoid-based skincare, what does it mean? Does that mean that consumers are your target audience, or does that mean that there's this whole unreachable or not yet reached audience that may just have not the education or awareness that CBD or cannabinoid-based skincare exists?
Yeah, so that question is really interesting, right? Because the easiest conversion will be from the cannabis demographic, which is very familiar, right, with these terms and these acronyms. So when we say minors, like what are we talking about? Not a scale, but actually minor cannabinoids. However, obviously the broader market is really where that market opportunity is exponential. And so, 53% of beauty consumers are looking at ingredients now, right? And looking at the ingredients in terms of product effectiveness and efficacy. And so there's actually a really huge opportunity to position cannabinoids, major, minor, what have you, in terms of a hero ingredient within a skincare formulation or topical formulation, or a huge complement, right, to whatever that hero ingredient may be within that skincare formulation as a boost, right? As rounding out that product story, so to speak. So we're looking at, this opportunity, not just within the easily converted demographic, but also educating and driving awareness toward cannabinoids and minor cannabinoids in skincare formulations as a huge, formulation booster in delivering the results that brands and companies are seeking, and also that consumers are also demanding.
Well, that's really interesting, and something that we are going to get to in a few slides is what the consumers and non-consumers view as those hero ingredients. And, I think when people see what they are, they'll understand that that is a story to be told because of what we see in ingredient preferences already.